I know just playing against you, I know you've been like one of the just top elite corners in the league throughout the course of your career. I know we'll shift a little bit. We're talking about your son, but I like to get to the elephant in the room.
The popcorn. You got to get to the popcorn,
huh? Right. Trying to get to the popcorn, baby.
Exactly. You know, I follow you on Instagram a bit, and obviously right now they have the Hall of Fame. You know, the Hall of Fame. They have the selection, the things of that nature. Your name hasn't come up. And for me, going through the process, and we all know about that, I think it's a travesty, understanding, looking at all your accomplishments. And I saw at one point in time, I think it might have been a year ago, you put up your statistics and their statistics. And then, dude, you have a legitimate case as to why your name should be in the hat. You should have already been on that list to be in the Hall of Fame. What is it going to take? When do you think that they will make, an effort to even just put your name on the list for the Hall of Fame?
Well, let me say, first of all, we know the Hall of Fame is a joke. First of all, we know, as you know, it's a joke. There is no standards for this Hall of Fame.
You already know.
Look at it like it's a joke. First of all, what are the standards for to be there? Because any standard you put out there, my name gonna be there. I'm the top 10 in pass breakups. I'm top in interceptions. I got the record that Willie Brown, rest in peace, had for most interceptions for touchdowns. And I led the league in interceptions twice with Champ Bailey. With Champ Bailey, I got more interceptions. I got 50 interceptions in 10 years. Willie Brown, it's only like Dick Knight, Train Lane, and my boy who just went in the Hall of Fame, that coach that just winning another one. It's only 3 of us, 4 of us that done that. And they all Hall of Famers. So like I said, if you're not putting me in there, who you gonna put in there? Right. What cornerback you gonna put in there?
Right.
What quarterback has done something more superior than what I have done? When I was in the league, I led the interception league for the 5-6 years of interceptions. Most pass breakups, best passer rating. They was talking about Darrell Reeves. Yeah, ups to him, but his passer rating wasn't better than mine. You threw the ball my way, it was intercepted 20% of the time. Not caught, not deflected. It was an interception.
Wow.
Chris Collins will tell you, I was feared. I was the only cornerback that was ever feared in my, Chris Collins would tell you. They didn't want to publicly talk about it and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, the Hall of Fame is a joke. Until they tell what the standards are, it's a joke. As T.O. should know, it's a joke.
Right. I mean, it's like I said, because you went, those 4 years
trust
in a
me,
row.
Trust me, boy.
Yeah, you went 4 years in a row going to the Pro Bowl.
And you got 2 real people talking that don't care what nobody think and nobody say. I don't care what nobody got to say.
Hey, boy, you got me over here, boy. I got chills over here. You just rambling out.
It is what it is, boy.
It is what it is.
Exactly, man. Because again, like you said, what are the standards, the criteria? When you look at your statistics, that's what it should be about. It should be about your body
of work.
Body of work. And the Hall of Fame, like I'm calling them out right now. David Baker, all those guys that make up the Hall of Fame, you guys ought to be ashamed of yourself not to have this guy into consideration. Even the writers that make up, that basically ultimately induct guys into the Hall of Fame. The fact that Asante Samuel's name is not even mentioned, and no disrespect to Champ Bailey and any of those guys,
for sure,
but to not to have Asante Samuel's name in the mix in the last 5 or so years, it's a travesty. And again, like I said, for a lot of people that have witnessed and they witnessed what I went through, everybody criticized and still criticize my decision not to go to the Hall of Fame. Listening to you is part of why I did it. Because like you said, you talk about the standard, you talk about the criteria. When you break down the film, when you look at your body of work, the Hall of Fame is supposed to be about that. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Let me
cut you off.
This is why, like I said.
Let me cut you off. Sorry. And Dave, what you say his name? David what?
David Baker.
David Baker,
president over there.
He don't know you people. Know you Hall of Fame. I don't know y'all a joke. David Baker, whoever y'all a big joke. They need to get some real people in there. Get rid of all you old farts and some real people that know the real stuff. So stuff could be real. And second thing I want to tell you, Ty Law's a Hall of Famer, right? I went to New England had the best year a cornerback ever had in New England. The same thing. But guess what? When I played cornerback in New England and did all this stuff, he's a system corner. He's a cover 2 corner. He's this. Why wasn't Ty Law that stuff? Now when I go to the Patriots, go to the Eagles, I got all these old heads hating on me. He's a system corner. He's going to be this and this and that. They created the narrative for me. I didn't know no better. I just didn't like to talk to the media. I should have probably said something. But David Baker, until you fix this, you a joke, David Baker. And you could call me. You could say whatever you want. You a joke. And I'm glad I know who you are. You're a joke. Just like that.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that it is more of a personal liking of their criteria more than stats and numbers and what you did in the league?
I think it's the Gil Braden or whatever. I'm bad with names. He said it on social media best. It's about the narrative. It's not about the truth. It's about the narrative. Let me give you an example. Not hating on nobody. Jalen Ramsey, first team All-Pro. Big ups to him. You know what I mean? But you got J.C. Jackson put crazy stats up this year. You got the guy from Green Bay. These guys it should have been, it shouldn't just be that easy because I've been a victim of that. And Champ will tell you that. Champ went to Pro Bowls and all that, barely played in the season. He told me, yeah, man, I don't even know why I'm not even supposed to be here. But that's how.
Yeah, players do that a lot.
Once you're a top pick, you get all the media coverage. You get all the hype.
Popularity.
It's the popularity, and that's win. But it shouldn't be like that for the Hall of Fame.
For the Hall of Fame,
all that with all that stuff in the Hall of Fame, it's about standards and the criteria. That's what it should be about.
Yeah, and you're right. It is about like the PR person at that team giving that name to the media, say cover this guy, and give him this magazine and this ESPN coverage. So you're right. It has to do with that, just the narrative that the team wants to put out there. But at the same time, it's ridiculous how if you talk to the players, again, players always say, yeah, I didn't do nothing this year. I shouldn't have been into the Pro Bowl. They say that all the time. You know what? They can have the Hall of Fame, David Baker, NFL, whoever. You have to start listening because that narrative is cracked. And again, in 10 years, you're going to look at this Hall of Fame and it's going to be more names on there and players going to be like, that's a joke. And the longer that's going to go on, the worse it is for the Hall of Fame. Because as we know, if the players had our own Hall of Fame, which we should be voting, all players should be voting, that whole list would be different. The whole list would be different.
On
the I guess the voting, the voters that make up the Hall of Fame, I think it's either 46 or 48, but only 2 of them. Maybe it's increased. Like I said, I don't really keep up with it. But I think I think it may have added a few more people, what have you. But it was only like 2 former, athletes that was on that list. Everybody else was media based. And as we all know, like I said, it's a popularity contest. Hat said something interesting, it was a PR thing or what have you. I guess it could be and it could not be. I mean, in a sense, I don't really think for me that it was a PR thing for me. I think they didn't really push me to the forefront to be on this and that. I think which it should have been for you. Your play should have spoken loudly enough that should have been your own PR.
I think it was a dislike.
I mean,
thing.
You didn't need no PR, really.
I think it was a dislike.
Oh,
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was one of those athletes that was very outspoken, and people didn't know how to take that. And for whatever reason, I didn't know you to be that type of guy. But for me, like you said, growing up in the South, knowing who you are, being raised and things instilled in you by your parents, that's how we grow up. And so you take that, whatever those upbringings or whatever motivated you, inspired you, you take that and you translate it to the football field. And it was an outlet. I wanted to be the best. You know what I mean? I guess me being the athlete that I was at a young age, I wasn't as good as you guys were. It was something that I always tried to I had to just work on. To have someone like you and you look at your stats and you break it down, dude, it makes no sense. And until those things happen, I will always say that I just got asked a question during an interview the other day. Do I regret it? Now it's been a few years that have passed. Would I go back? No, because nothing has changed. And the fact that we're sitting here talking to you with all your statistics, like I said, you're your own spokesperson. I don't really need to break down all those stats. You know that the people that, like you said, you already mentioned too, that already that your stats were even better than that. Ty Law, Champ Bailey, the fact that you played on the same with Ty Law, you outplayed him, you outshined him. That speaks volume. That goes into your body of work. That should be taken into consideration. And until those things are changed, I don't know. I trust me. I'll never go back. I'll never go back. But the fact, this is what's going to happen at some point, because once we put this out, that's going to be my main focus. I'm going to direct the Hall of Fame to this episode. Just say you make it. Will you go? Knowing what you've gone through, the fact that you haven't even been, your name hasn't even been brought up.
Yeah.
Will you go? Because I've talked to some other players, and I've talked to some white players too, that are, I'm talking about players and players in position of power. They said to me personally that, yo, that was messed up. Your first battle. They like, yo, when I'm up and they do me like that, they said, shit, I'm gonna do the same thing. And this was a white player that's playing right now.
You definitely, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's definitely a big thought of mine. But it's a thing that you said we just alike, right? The one problem I would have, right? My mama passed away, right? All this is for my mom. You feel me? I'm just walking. I'm just walking. I'm not even a real person. This is all God did this for my mom. You feel me? So I have to pray so hard, and I will have to feel the energy. You feel me? But if I did go up there, it wouldn't be no regular situation. It's gonna have to be what I want, how I want. I'm coming out there, Asante Samuel, Lauderdale. I'm bringing Lauderdale with me. And that's how it's gonna be. That's what it is.
Hey, and I ain't gonna tell no lie, boy. The fact that you just said that, like you said, see, for me, like I said, we're similar in a lot of ways, different as well. So for me, I didn't grow up always wanted to play football, so it wasn't really in my blood. It wasn't in my DNA. Like I said, everything that you've done, your mom inspired. Like, it was for your mom. I did what I did too for my mom, but I wasn't just so passionate and about football as you were. So again, I like the fact that you would take it in consideration. The fact that you've given thought, okay, if this actually does happen, you're gonna have to pray long and hard for that decision to be made. And I honestly respect. And the fact when you do make it, I ain't gonna say if, when you do make it, and whatever decision you make, well, that might be the first time that I may go, because I want to see this firsthand. Because I ain't gonna tell no lie, because
already,
because you know it's coming. You know it's coming. You feel me? You know it's coming. You know how I'm gonna act.
Like I said, for me, man, it's disrespectful. In a sense, like I said, the first time I go around, because me and Hatch, when I getting ready to make my decision, Hatch being a good friend of mine, like, yo, that was one of the guys that I called, he and a couple other people. And he wasn't riding with my decision at first. But then as I broke it down to him as to why, I kind of brought him around, and he saw the light as far as, okay, now I understand, and he sees. But now we're sitting here talking to you, man. Like I said, number one, it's a blessing for me we having you on this show. We appreciate you coming on, but man, like I said, this is a treat. This is a thrill for me, and I want people to understand that this is what football players go through. And me being a Hall of Famer and someone in your caliber, understanding your stats, and I want all our listeners go look up this guy. No, go to YouTube. Go to YouTube and look at the tape. Look at the tape.
I dare you to look it up and compare me to your favorite corner. I dare you.
Right.
And you know another thing, that's the difference between me and you, T.O. We stand up people. We don't just fall for anything. You can't just tell us anything and just, but I don't care about your big organization. I don't care about none of that. That don't mean nothing to me. I'm a Asante Samuel. I don't care about none of that. You feel me? So you ain't just, I don't just come where they come just because you said this and that. No, y'all better treat me with dignity and respect. You feel me? And that's how it's gonna go. Hey, one thing, I don't be on social media or going crazy, but every team I went to, they'll tell you, don't play with that man.
It wasn't
a
game.
Play with him. Everywhere I went, don't play with him.
It wasn't a game. It was not a game, but Asante Samuel. They're talking to the 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time World Super Bowl champ, And again, you seem like you like to be motivated, right? When somebody kind of rattles that cage, you ready. Like open the door, you ready.